Life as We Knew It, Chapter 19, page 294, January 10th. They're sick. It started with Mom. She tried to get off her mattress this morning and couldn't. Something's the matter, she said. Don't let anyone come near me. Matt and I went over to the side of the room and whispered so Mom wouldn't hear us. We can't move her out, he said. She'd freeze in the kitchen. We'll just have to take our chances. But then Johnny screamed. It was the most horrifying sound I'd ever heard. We ran over to him and saw he was delirious, crazed with fever. Aspirin, I said, and I ran to the pantry to get the bottle. Matt put a pot of water on the stove to make tea. Mom was close to unconscious when the tea was ready, but we lifted her head up and forced the tea and aspirin down her throat. I was afraid she would choke on it, but after we saw her swallow, we put her head back down. She was shivering terribly, so I took one of the blankets off my mattress and draped it around her. John was harder. His arms were swinging around so wildly that he hit me in the jaw and knocked me over. Matt got behind him and held his arms down while I pushed the aspirin into his mouth and poured the tea down his throat. Then I ran to the bathroom and got the rubbing alcohol. Matt turned him over and pinned him down while I gave him a back rub. He was burning with fever and kept tossing off his blankets. We need help, I said. I don't know if I'm doing this right. Matt nodded. I'll go, he said. You stay here and look after them. But as he got up, he began to sway. For one awful moment, I thought he was going to grab onto the wood stove to keep from falling. But he came to his senses and sank onto John's mattress instead. I can't do it, he said, and he crawled from John's mattress to his own. Don't worry. Oh, I can do it, he said, and crawled from John's mattress to his own. Don't worry. I didn't know if he meant he could make it to his own mattress or to get help, but it was obvious he wasn't going anywhere. I handed him a couple of aspirin and poured another mug of tea. I need you to stay here, I said, when he gestured that he could get up. Mom and John are helpless. You have to make sure the fire doesn't go out and John stays covered. Can you do that? I don't know how long I'll be gone. I'll be okay, he said. Go. Peter will know what to do. I kissed his forehead. He was hot, but nowhere near as bad as Mom or John. I put a couple pieces of wood in the stove and put on my coat, boots, scarf, and gloves. The skis were in the front hallway, so I got them, then closed the front door behind me. The weather wasn't bad, but I'd forgotten to put on the extra socks I needed for Dad's boots to fit, and I fell a dozen times as I made my way to the hospital. I fell into snow on top of snow, so I never bruised myself, but of course I got soaking wet. It didn't matter. Each time I fell, I got back up and started again. No one else was going to rescue us. It was all up to me. I don't know how long it took me to reach the hospital. I remember thinking I should have eaten something before I left, so it was probably close to noon when I got there. But it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except getting help. Unlike the last time I'd gone there, the outside of the hospital was completely deserted. No guards to prevent me from entering. I had a moment of pure terror that I'd find no one inside, but I pushed the front door open and could hear sounds in the distance. The lobby was empty, so I followed the voices. I'd never heard the hospital so quiet before. There weren't any lights on, and I wondered if their generator had finally stopped working. If the hospital wasn't functional, what chance did any of us have? Eventually, I found the source of the noise. It was two women, nurses I assumed, sitting in an empty room. I charged in there, relieved to see them, terrified of what they were going to say. I need Dr. Elliot, I said. Peter Elliot, where is he? Elliot? One of the women said, and she scratched the back of her neck. He died on Saturday, didn't he, Maggie? No, I think it was Friday, Maggie replied. Remember Friday we lost 10 people and we thought that was the worst of it. Then Saturday we lost 17. But I think he was on Friday. I'm pretty sure it was Saturday, the first woman said. Doesn't matter, does it? He's dead. Just about everyone is. It took me a moment to realize they were saying Peter was dead. Peter, who had done all he could to protect us and care for us, had died. Peter Elliot, I said. Dr. Elliot? That Peter Elliot? Dead, just like everyone else, Maggie said, and she kind of laughed. I guess we'll be next. Nah, the first woman said. If we're not dead yet, nothing's going to kill us. Flu, Maggie said. Past couple of weeks, it's flying through town. People kept coming here like we could do something, and all the staff came down with it, except for Linda here and me and a couple of others. We'd go home except we're scared of what we'd find, and besides, we'd just make our families sick. Funny, isn't it? We survived so much, and it's the flu that's going to kill us all off. My family has it, I said. Don't you have any kind of medicine? There must be something. Linda shook her head. It's the flu, hun, she said. It just runs its course. Only thing is, no one has any strength left to fight it off. It's a bad strain, Maggie said, like in 1918, the kind that would kill you anyway. But my family, I said, what should I do for them? Make them comfortable, Maggie said, and don't bring them here when they die. We're not taking any more bodies. I gave them aspirin, I said, and an alcohol rub. Was that the right thing to do? Honey, listen to us, Maggie said. It doesn't matter. Maybe you'll be lucky. Maybe your family's stronger. Aspirin won't hurt. Alcohol rubs won't hurt. Pray if it'll make you feel better. But whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and it'll happen fast. You can try fluids, Linda said. If you have any food, try to make them eat. They'll need all the strength they can get. Maggie shook her head. Save the food for yourself, hun, she said. You look healthy enough. Maybe you're like us, and you're resistant to the strain. Your folks would want you to live. Take care of yourself. Your family's going to live or die no matter what you do. No, I said, no, I don't believe you. There has to be something. There were how many people here last week? Maggie said. 100, maybe more. We lost half of them the first day. Go home and be with your folks. Give them whatever comfort you can. Sorry, Linda said. I know it's a tough break. Sorry to tell you about Dr. Elliot. He was a nice man. He worked until the end, and then he just collapsed and died. We've lost a lot of staff that way, working until their last breath. But maybe your family will make it through. Some people do. There was no point staying. I thanked them and started the journey home. The wind had picked up and was blowing against me for much of the walk. I stumbled as much as I skied, and it was all I could do to keep from bursting into tears. Peter was dead. For all I knew, Mom and John were also. Matt might die too. I remembered how John had asked me what he would do if he were the only one of us to survive, and how flippant I'd been. And now I was facing the same thing. Yesterday, everything was fine. By tonight, I could be completely alone. I told myself over and over again that I wouldn't let that happen. We were strong. We ate, we had heat and shelter. We'd been lucky so far. We'd stay lucky. We'd stay alive. The sky was darkening when I finally made it home, but it looked like a snow sky, and I was sure it was still daytime. It took all the courage I had to open the door, but when I got to the sunroom, I saw things were pretty much as I'd left them. Mom was so quiet I had to kneel by her side to make sure she was still breathing. But she was. Johnny was delirious, but he was covered and not flailing around so much. Matt was lying on his mattress, but his eyes were open, and he turned around when he saw I'd come in. Peter, he said. I shook my head. We're on our own, I said. It's just the flu. We'll be fine. Okay, he said, and closed his eyes. For the most horrible moment of my life, I thought he'd died, that he had stayed alive until I got back, and then felt he could die. But he'd just fallen asleep. His breathing was shallow, but he was definitely alive. I put some wood in the stove and collapsed into my mattress. That's where I am now. I don't even know why I'm writing this down, except that I feel fine, and maybe tomorrow I'll be dead. And if that happens, and someone should find my journal, I want them to know what happened. We are a family. We love each other. We've been scared together and brave together. If this is how it ends, so be it. Only, please, don't let me be the last one to die. January 11th. We made it through the night. Mom and Johnny don't seem any better. It was harder getting the aspirin down Mom's throat. She coughed a lot and threw the pills back up, so I dissolved them in tea. Johnny alternates between delirium and stupor. I don't know which is scarier. Matt is the least sick of the three, and I really think he'll survive. He sleeps most of the day, but when he's awake, he's Matt. I gave all of them aspirin and cold remedies every 4 hours and sponge-bathed them and gave them alcohol rubs. It's hard keeping the blankets on Johnny. I heated beef broth and spoon-fed all of them. I had to hold up Mom and Johnny's head when I did. Matt was able to stay awake long enough to take a few swallows on his own. That's got to be a good sign. When I went out this morning to clean the bedpan, I discovered it was snowing again. It probably started right after I got in yesterday. It was obviously dying down by this morning, but we probably got another 6 inches. Not that it matters. I don't have a fever. I'm tired from staying up, and it's hard to remember to eat, but I'm definitely not sick. Maybe I'm crazy, but I keep thinking if Mom and Johnny and Matt have made it this long, they're not going to die.